Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon, Danvers. This and anyone else who's watching. This is Jim Morosa, and this is Jim's Table Topics. This is our February 2025 edition show. Okay, so basically, welcome to 2025. Since our last show, President Trump has been had his inauguration, and it's been just one thing after another. He is prolific in what he's doing. He's just filling all those campaign promises that he said he was going to do, and that's what this show is going to focus about. This is in January we just talked about what happened in 2024. What can we expect in 2025? I guess now we know. The mainstream media is just not going to give up, even though on CNN they've been laying off several of their, I can't say that, they've been laying off some commentators, and they really don't even have any market share because they've just been propped up with fake money from probably USAID, which we'll get into, because the name of this show is just going to be Media Distortion Continues. It's just continuing. It may be smaller, but there are people who just follow the mainstream media and listen to all the hype and hyperbole, and so it doesn't seem to end. And did we start the clock there, Ben? And at any rate, we got to think about what's happening, and that's why the name of the show is kind of important. I'm going to try to hit several things as we go through, but as you know, I do kind of like to talk about the good news first, and then we'll kind of get into the bad news. But I do like to just set up the show because we've just had 4 years of Biden-Harris and KJP as the press secretary, and it was been duck, dodge, and hide, obfuscate, and just misrepresent, and there was no transparency whatsoever. Zero. You couldn't get anything to happen in the Biden, Harris, KJP style of transparency. I mean, of course, they had Jen Psaki and a few others, but again, now we have Donald Trump, President, Vice President J.D. Vance, and we have Karoline Leavitt as the press secretary. She's prolific. She doesn't need a binder. It's all in her head. She knows what she's doing. She knows the issues. She knows she knows what's going on, and she is very transparent, extremely transparent. She's so transparent, you'll be lucky if you can ever find the fake news in the mainstream media to actually quote anything that she says that is, that proves that, because they're only going to look for the gotcha moments. That's all they do. 2020, they're being sued because all they do is they take all the footage of any, like I said, the media distortion continues. They can't help themselves. It's just one thing after another after another. Let's just take Dan Bongino. He was just appointed as the deputy director or assistant director, whatever the director is, the one step under director, assistant director, deputy director of the FBI. And so the fake news in the mainstream media hype him as some right-wing radical. Yeah, say that real quick. A right-wing radical who is off the charts and blah, 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 blah. He's the worst person in the world. But Dan Bongino was a New York City police officer for years. He was also, for years, a Secret Service agent. That's no small task. Millions of people would love to be a Secret Service agent, but you know what? Only the few, the proud, the tough can get in there. Okay? Well, that was before DEI, but we'll get into that later. So the distortions are so minimal. it's like fishing. You put the bait on the hook. The hook is the worst thing in the world, but you put that little pretty thing on it and, oh yeah, I want that, and boom, you got it. That's what lies and distortion are. They give you a little negative about people you don't like. Yeah, he's the worst person in the world, and that's it. And it just fosters hate. And that's unfortunately where we are. So, all right. Before I go off the rails, I already am off the rails. I just want to let you know that this show, I'm just trying to educate as many people that are willing to listen to the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey would say. There's other things that are happening that you need to know about, all the way from the USAID and everything else. We'll get into all of that eventually, but I guess before we do, we will go into the good news, because that's, my favorite place to be, because, like I said, my new mantra is going to be more Jesus, less politics. These people are crazy. The mainstream media and all these, it's just crazy what they do. Crazy what they do. So we need to know who's who in the world of stupidity here. Yeah, let's flop up picture number one as we go into the good news, okay? So in the good news, we got to remember that God has a plan for your life and my life, everyone's life. And the enemy has a plan for our lives as well. We need to be ready for both. Just be wise enough to know which one to battle and which one to embrace. And that is the story of life. I mean, that's all I've ever been asking any of you guys to do, is to look at what's happening and figure out what's true, what's false, what's right, what's wrong, what's evil, what's good. And there is no middle ground in a lot of this stuff. Some places there are, but by and large, it's either true or it's false. And there's no my truth, your truth, someone else's truth. Everything has a standard except for these fluffy opinions, stupid things like that. But, we're not going to get into it. It's either right or it's wrong. It's either going to be good for you or bad for you. It's that simple. But the media distorts all this stuff. And so that's why God's plan is very simple. And that's all I do is ask, is that people stop and think about, where you get your information, and are you taking time to step back and look at what's happening here between the world and the fake news, the spiritual world, the material world, and all the different facets of our lives that we have to deal with. Where can we really find peace, joy, love, and happiness? I mean, not fighting all these stupid political battles, that's for sure. That is for sure. And so what's the best way to step back from that? And the best way to step back is to try to just get a little more spiritually, morally based in reality and truth and what's happening. And sometimes, we have to go back and lean on science. But so let's put up video number one. We'll go to a quick, Franklin Graham's got his, we always play his commercial because, I can talk all day long, but other people say it so much better than me.
Hello, I'm Franklin Graham. Are you fed up? Are you wanting to get your life back, but you don't know which way to turn? You don't know who to believe. You don't know what the truth is. Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life, and no man comes to the Father but by me. If you put your faith and trust in Jesus Christ, He'll guide and direct every step you take. God loves you and He wants to forgive you, but the problem we face is sin, and our sins separate us from God. Jesus took our sins to the cross, and if you're willing to trust Him as your Savior and pray a prayer with me right now, God will forgive your sins and He'll heal your heart. Just pray this prayer. God, I've sinned. I'm sorry. Forgive me. I believe Jesus is your Son, and I want to trust Him as my Savior, and I want to follow Him for the rest of my life. If you prayed that prayer, call that number that's on the screen. We've got people that like to pray with you right now. Do it now. God bless you, and call that number. I'm Franklin Graham.
All right, thank you, Franklin. Again, Jesus has got all the answers. The Bible has all the answers. You just got to look for them and pray and try to find someone who knows about this stuff and try to start your spiritual journey. further your spiritual journey, deepen your spiritual journey, and find out the true meaning of life. Because, yeah, there is, as the ultimate prayer says, the serenity prayer, to the ultimate power, the higher power, and the higher power is Jesus. Even in our, not the Constitution, but in the Declaration of Independence, which is the foundation of the Constitution, it says we are all endowed by our Creator with unalienable rights. Unalienable means that they can't be taken away. Government, God gave us these rights, so government and everyone can't take them away. That's why the Bill of Rights was very important, and it says, we have the freedom of speech, freedom of religion. The government can't touch those, but they keep trying, and the fake media is helping them, but that's not the way it's supposed to work. But they do. Same thing with the Second Amendment. But again, God has a plan, and Satan has a plan. So Satan's plan is pretty clear. You can follow it right there in the fake news, because it's fear. They're going to take away all your stuff. They're going to take away your money. They're going to take away this. They're going to take away your freedom. They're going to do that. That's fear. They're fear-mongering. That's fear-mongering. When you listen to the fake news, you go, oh, really? They're going to do that? Well, they're not. No. There may be some little truth to some of this stuff, but they blow it out of proportion, and they lie, cheat, and steal, as we'll find out with the USAID. And so, but God gives you, He wants you to have faith in Him, and faith in the goodness, and faith that good will prevail. And even if it doesn't, we just do the best we can until it's our time to go home, and or the end comes, because the end will come. And it's not going to be because of global warming or pollution or anything else. It's going to be because God says, that's it, folks, game's over. And as is predicted in the Bible, that's what will happen. There will be all sorts of catastrophes, from earthquakes, tidal waves, volcanoes, you name it. The earth pains. The earth is just going to explode, and it's going to be nothing to do with global warming or any other stuff. So, at any rate, that's the good news. Just know that God loves you, and He's hoping that you'll turn from the fear and evil of this world and try to find more out about God through the Bible, and just help yourself get on that spiritual road to spiritual fullness, life fullness, and try to get that grasp of the meaning of life. I mean, no one can tell you. It's like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, the good witch of the north, or whatever, Glenda the good witch. I couldn't have told you, but you had to learn for yourself. You just have to click your heels together 3 times and you'll be home. Okay, and so that's it. The good news, God loves you, I love you, and there is love. Don't look at all the hate and fear and crime and misery. There is light at the end of the tunnel, and that light is God Himself. And through faith and endurance, patience, kindness, and the fruits of the Spirit, that's what's going to get you there. If you don't know what the fruits of the Spirit are, well, that's what you need to do. I'll have to do that next time. I'm going to list out the fruits of the Spirit, and then we can see the fruits of the demon spirit. God lists out all these things that we should be thinking about and doing, and then the devil just does the opposite. Faith, fear, love, hate. It just goes right down the list. It's very, very, it's very simple. But emotions and fear get in the way, so we have to back off and focus on reality, what's real. So, okay, we're going to get into the bad news now. So the good news, love you, got to go. The bad news, like I said, this show is the media distortion continues. It just, they just can't help themselves. They just keep going. I told you about Dan Bongino and the fact that he's, they just, oh, how could they do that? He's a right-wing, radical extremist, commentator. He's evil. But he was a Secret Service agent, and he was a New York police officer. And he's got credentials better than any of those other bozos that were in the last administration, the cross-dresser and the transvestite, just the list goes on. They had no qualifications other than We need someone that's black. We need someone who's a trans, and we need the qualifications didn't matter. But at any rate, that's what DEI is all about. And there's a difference between E, equity, and E, equal. We all start out equal. We're trying to equal opportunity. Everybody has the same opportunity, and that's what we're talking about. Equal, not special. Okay. And another, distortion would be, Elon Musk, he's an evil man, and he's getting access to all our secret documents, and he shouldn't be doing that. Okay, newsflash. Elon Musk is the CEO, owner, director of SpaceX, who works hand in hand with NASA, who, oh, by the way, you can't work for NASA unless you have a top secret security clearance. So he has a top secret security clearance. Unlike Joe Biden, who had no security clearance to have the documents he had in his garage, in boxes, by his Corvette, with the door open, and he got them before he was president, before he was vice president, when he was a senator, because he was hiding his shell companies. So, again, the media, all they can do is make conservative Republicans look bad, and well, it's the deep state. If you're not part of the deep state, you're going to look bad. As you'll see in these stupid votes they're taking now, Republicans aren't really Republicans. You're either part of the deep state or you're not, okay? So that's why they need to it's controlled resistance. As long as they can get several Republicans to become rhinos and become part of the deep state, and, they run it like the mafia, which we'll get into. So, yeah, cue up that second video. And so first, before I get in deep into this, let's just listen to Karoline Leavitt and some of the things that are being so misrepresented, so misportrayed, so spun out of control. It is literally pathetic. You can't even make this stuff up, and it's right in front of your eyes, and you just gotta, like the Wizard of Oz, just pull the curtain back, and there is the Wizard of Oz going, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Pay no attention to all us lying people back here trying to scare you into doing it our way. Okay, fire it up.
Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, facing a number of legal battles, most of which are coming from Democrats up in arms about DOGE decluttering the federal government. White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt will join us, as promised, to react to the pushback against DOGE. But first, senior White House correspondent Peter Doocy is live on the North Lawn. Peter, how much have taxpayers saved because of all this work on the part of DOGE?
So far, in the neighborhood of $50 billion, Sandra, and officials here are claiming that things are about to get much bigger if they can make some major changes, because they are saying that the first look at the Treasury Department has revealed that $4.7 trillion worth of payments at Treasury went out the door without a Treasury account symbol, which is similar to a billing code. And that means that $4.7 trillion is basically untraceable.
You're looking at somehow some of these bureaucrats from DC that have never left, but then make hundreds of thousands of dollars and are somehow worth tens of millions of dollars, close to 100 million in certain circumstances. Do we believe that there's a chance that they could be funneling these to NGOs with interest? Yes, we know that happens.
Elon Musk posted about allegations of Social Security fraud. My rough estimate is that it's 80% lack of competence / caring and 20% fraud, but that's still a lot of fraud. There are Democrats, though, countering the fraud is actually by billionaires at the White House trying to help billionaire friends.
Corruption's up. Chaos is up, and yes, prices are up for Americans. And that's why we are standing up against this effort to basically put their tax cuts for billionaires on the backs of working people, whether it's Social Security or whether it is prescription drugs or whether it is housing or child care.
The acting head of the Social Security Administration is leaving after a disagreement with DOGE engineers about access to sensitive taxpayer information. She had been the acting SSA administrator since January 21st, one day into Trump's term. Sandra.
All right, Peter Doocy live at the White House for us. Peter, thank you. John.
All right, for more on DOGE's work so far, let's bring in Karoline Leavitt, White House Press Secretary. Karoline, great to spend the afternoon with you. Appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me, John. Great to see you.
So the Democrats, as we know, have got their hair on fire complaining about DOGE and cost cutting. But if we go back in history,
Barack Obama announced something very similar back in 2011. And then if you go all the way back to 1993, remember when Al Gore and Bill Clinton said this.
This report tells us how to cut waste, cut red tape, streamline the bureaucracy, change procurement rules, change the personnel rules, and create a government that works better and costs less.
The Reinventing Government, or RIGO, report aims to save $108 billion over 5 years through eliminating scores of wasteful programs and regulations. Among the 800 recommendations, eliminating 12% of the federal workforce, merging some government agencies like the FBI, the DEA, and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, closing hundreds of government offices outside Washington.
I don't remember Democrats complaining about that, and they wanted to cut twice the number of federal jobs that President Trump does.
That's exactly right, John. If you listen to those words, those are from Democrat Party leaders who are allegedly still beloved by Democrat voters today. And they were promising the American people the very same things that President Trump promised the American people, won the election on, and now is actually delivering on. That's the only difference between what President Trump is doing and what these Democrats have promised the American people for decades. He's actually following through on the promise to cut federal government waste, fraud, and abuse. And this is the first president to actually do such a thing, and the Democrats are up in arms about it. But our country is going bankrupt, and President Trump is not going to sit back and allow it to happen.
Caroline, can I ask you for a clarification? Sandra here, by the way, and thanks for coming back on with us. It seems there's being a lot made of what Elon Musk's role is actually at Doge. The president has introduced him as the head of Doge multiple times in interviews, yet there's this affidavit that we've been able to get our hands on here that the press has as well, that it contradicts the White House claim that he's the head of Doge. This affidavit actually says he doesn't work for Doge at all. Reading directly from it, it says Musk is not an employee of the U.S. Doge Service or the U.S. Doge Service Temporary Organization. That's according to the director of the White House's Office of Administration. So what is his role at Doge?
Sure, I'm happy to clarify. Elon Musk is a special government employee here at the White House, serving at the direction of the President of the United States, Donald Trump. Elon Musk has been tasked with overseeing Doge on behalf of the President, and Doge employees, Doge folks have been onboarding at respective agencies across our federal bureaucracy as political appointees, just like any other political appointee gets on board with the new administration with the changing of hands, and those individuals are helping the secretaries at all of our agencies that have been nominated and confirmed by President Trump and the United States Senate to cut waste, fraud, and abuse at these respective agencies. So that's the way Doge has been set up, and that's the way it will continue to operate.
All right. Well, let's come back to the plane crash in Toronto that happened yesterday, and the fact that Democrats seem to be pointing the finger of blame at the president. I'm not quite sure how you make that connection when the crash occurred in a different country. But here's what Chuck Schumer said. He said, quote, "To those asking whether it matters that the plane's destination was in Canada, the flight took off from Minneapolis. The FAA was still responsible for inspecting the aviation equipment, and Trump just let go of FAA safety specialists. We have no idea what caused this crash. We have some video of it coming in for a hard landing, but we don't know if it was a failure of equipment or if it was weather, if it was pilot error, or if it was something else." And yet you get the minority leader in the Senate immediately pointing fingers at the president. Your response?
It's incredibly irresponsible for Chuck Schumer to say such a thing when the investigation is still underway. And as you rightfully pointed out, John, this crash unfortunately took place in Canadian airspace with Canadian air traffic controllers overseeing it. And the facts about the FAA are that no air traffic controllers have been let go by Secretary Duffy or this new administration. In fact, Secretary Duffy has put great emphasis on hiring the best and the brightest air traffic controllers who want to be part part of the FAA, and President Trump signed a very strong executive order to ensure that the FAA and all federal government agencies are focused on merit and skill-based hiring. We want the best and the brightest, the most competent individuals in positions, especially of public safety, at the FAA, the Department of Transportation, and all departments across this federal government, so we can best serve the American people. So while Secretary Buttigieg and the Biden administration sat on their hands when it came to aviation safety for 4 years, this administration is taking it seriously and is actively recruiting the best and the brightest to join this very important field.
Caroline, we know that Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, has been having some critical meetings overseas, Saudi Arabia. We've got Steve Witkoff joining him as well, Mike Waltz. What can you tell us is coming from that? He seems to be putting out some optimism that things may be getting closer to an actual deal being made.
I'm so glad you asked, Sandra, because this is a truly monumental step towards peace in the Russia-Ukraine war. At the direction of President Trump, Secretary Rubio, a special envoy Steve Witkoff, and our national security advisor Mike Waltz spoke to the Russians today and made significant steps towards peace. This is the first step of many. And I'd like to point out that our administration, including President Trump himself, has been in direct correspondence with the Ukrainians as well, including President Zelensky. President Trump also talked to our European allies yesterday. He had a phone call with France's President Emmanuel Macron. Next week, the Prime Minister of the UK will be here at the White House. And so we're ensuring that all parties are heard. But you have to speak to both sides of the war in order to truly negotiate a deal and problem solve. And this is a significant first step towards peace. Again, when the previous administration had no negotiations, no discussions, really no diplomacy in this effort, President Trump and his team are taking significant steps with just being here for 4 weeks.
I want to ask you, if I could, Caroline, about New York City Mayor Eric Adams, who is the subject of a meeting today that Governor Kathy Hochul is having, which a lot of people are reading as whether or not she should remove him from office. A federal judge has just asked the Department of Justice to come into court and explain why the charges against him were dropped. Democrats are suggesting there was a quid pro quo involved here, that in exchange for cooperation on immigration, the DOJ would drop the charges against Eric Adams. He has denied that. What do you say?
Well, I defer you to the Department of Justice for specifics on this case and the ongoing case and the matters against Mayor Eric Adams. What I do know is that Eric Adams has been incredibly courageous in speaking out against his own party when many Democrats refused to do so, about the terrible border invasion of illegal immigrants that the previous administration allowed to happen, which we know had a grave impact on New York City, on the education system, the transportation system, on taxpayer dollars in that city that were going to housing illegal migrants in hotels. Thankfully, all of that is coming to an end thanks to the strong leadership of President Trump. And New York will only be a sanctuary place for law-abiding American citizens and New Yorkers under this administration. And Mayor Adams has put out a helping hand to try to help the federal government in ending the border invasion. He was not heard by the last administration, but he is being heard by this administration because President Trump and his team will work with anyone to do what's best for law-abiding, tax-paying American citizens.
Well, Caroline, we've been carrying your press briefings live here on America Reports. We look forward to the next one. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Okay, welcome back. So again, there's a clear difference between the KJP style of communication and obfuscation and circling back and whatever else. I'll have to get back to you on that. Caroline Leavitt is, there was no notes. She just knows what's going on. There's a difference between knowing and faking it. You know what I mean? So that's the difference right there. Competence and incompetence. That's what we're looking at. Okay, we're looking at DEI or merit. That's the difference. That's what we're talking. And it's measurable. That's why we, it's like the NFL. There's no DEI high as an NFL. You're either out there working it, playing hard, and doing your job, as they say. You're blocking, you're tackling, you're running, you're scoring, you're passing, you're catching. You're playing the game and you're playing hard. you know, if you put a DEI out hire in there, he'd be in the hospital within, you know, moments, right? And so the same thing in the business world and in the technical world. You know, dead weight is dead weight. When people are going and they don't know what they're doing, then it affects everyone on the team, okay? So, I mean, I got to laugh. You know, the Doge had asked everyone to pass in, you know, 5 things you did last week. You know, I've worked my whole career in the dreaded private sector, and you always have to justify your existence. You know, the boss calls you up, sends you an email, comes into your office 2 or 3 times a day, or 2 or 3 times a week, or whatever. That's, you know, you got to just, what are you doing? Where's this? Where's that? What's going on here? What's going on there? I've had those questions. My boss's boss used to come down when I was the supervisor of final systems test trying to get systems out. And every 5 minutes, where's this system? Where's that? Where's this? And so I had to know what was going on at all times to tell people, yeah, this system is here. This one's going out today, tomorrow, next day, this day, that day. Always, always, always on time. So if you're not working it, then you're faking it. That's all there is to it. And if you can't come up with 5 things, then I could come up with 25,000 things. When I used to work, there's always something happening. If your phone ain't ringing, you ain't working. You know, then you're useless. People always call the person who knows the answers. That's why apparently my phone was always ringing. You know. And those people that are sitting there twiddling their thumbs, that's what, yeah, stay away from us because we're working over here, so just stay in the corner. The government is bloated, it's bloated, it's bloated. And we're going to get to the, you know, the Doge reports and this USAID, it's all one big, you know, fiasco, okay? I don't know how many times I got to tell you this is how it's been working. You know, the USAID is basically a front. What is a front? What is a front? A front is like Joe Biden and Hunter Biden had 25 shell companies or whatever. That's a front. You set up a company and, you know, like a travel agency. So the travel agencies, they have one guy doing, you know, a bunch of work. He's just sending out, oh, come in, yeah, we'll send you a trip here. Meanwhile, in the back room, all the money's being laundered and everything else is happening. But there are some people being serviced by the by the travel agency. So this is what's happening with the USAID, is that all the deep state socialist, you know, people that are owned by the deep state are pointing out all the travel agency customers that are going to be hurt by this Doge and the USAID. You can't do that. You can't shut down all that money. No, what's really happening is all that money, they sent $2 billion to Stacey Abrams. I don't know if you know who Stacey Abrams is, but she lost 2 elections in Atlanta. She ran for senator or governor, and, you know, 2 different races. She lost, but she was an election denier. She was out there saying, I won these races, and it's racism because she's black. And so it's racism that I lost and that the voting, that everybody cheated in the votes. But that's okay when she says it. But because she was pushing all the stupidity that the fake news and the deep state push, then they rewarded her by saying, yeah, you open up this little business over here with a $100,000 NGO, they call them, you know, they're going to do all this good work. And she started it out with $100, and then within, you know, a month or 2, she's get $2 billion in there. Oh, from USAID. And that, my friends, is how a front works. You set up a little, we're going to help all these little orphans in Haiti or in here and there. We're going to send out food and going to do this. And then all that money comes in and they're all buying, you know, multi-million-dollar estates and cars and everything else. So wake up and smell the tyranny, because that's what's happening. You do understand that that's how the mafia and the cartels and your government works. They create these fronts, and they're taking all your tax money and they're sending. How does a congressman and senator who makes $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 a year end up being multi-millionaires within years? Because they're funneling money to themselves through all these schemes. And that's what's happening. And so you have to wake up and smell the tyranny. You got to dig deeper. That's why, again, Caroline Leavitt and the whole issue that's going on here at the press corps, she's inviting a lot of more people in from the online outlets, and the mainstream medias are just falling apart because they're screaming like little babies because we can't compete with. Well, yeah, you can't compete because you keep lying. So we all need to stop listening to the lies that they're creating and selling, and they're debunked day after day. So soon, all this stuff from Chuck Schumer saying, you know, you just saw him on TV. They just lie to your face. The media purports it, and they just shock and awe and put fear into you that this is bad, 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 and whatever. Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, they're the best people in the world. They're the greatest. Meanwhile, they're stealing you blind, okay? And they lied the whole 4 years that Joe Biden was in there. What do you call it? He wasn't running the country. He couldn't even stay awake. Lord have mercy on us. I mean, I know I get a little wound up at this. I got so much information and so much lies, and damn lies. You gotta wake up and look at this distortion. All right, cue up that third video. This one's just gonna be a quick, short one, and again, just to highlight the difference between a Biden obfuscation presidency and a Trump transparency. Okay, transparency, obfuscation, transparency, the total opposites. But that's what we're dealing with. So anytime you're ready, let her rip.
The speech and enjoyed the speech. It was a very good speech with a very big crowd, and we love CPAC, and Mercedes and Matt have done a great job. He also wanted me to tell you all that he believes very strongly that Russia is willing to make a deal, and he's fighting to make a deal. And Mike Waltz, as you just saw him go inside, is going to be working around the clock all weekend to get a deal and end this conflict with Ukraine. The president said he wants the killing to stop. He wants to stop seeing innocent men die, and he wants peace. And that's his ultimate goal right now, and that's on his mind tonight.
Has he been updated on the Pope at all? Has he been updated on the Pope? He talked about the deal and that they were close to a deal. What's the next step to getting the minerals deal in Ukraine?
Well, as you know, Secretary Bessent has been involved in negotiating with the Russians or the Ukrainians on that front. When it comes to the critical minerals, this is an important piece for the president. It's very important to the president because it will recoup American tax dollars. And it also will be a great economic partnership between the United States of America and for the Ukrainian people as well as they rebuild their country following this brutal war. I heard you ask about the Pope.
Has the president been updated on the Pope's status?
Yes, he has been updated, and we're praying for the Pope. And I'll let the president put out his own statement, but of course our thoughts and prayers are with him.
How soon we can expect Putin-Trump meeting, and where? Will it be in Saudi Arabia or any other place?
I don't have anything to detail or to read out. Right now, the president and his team are very much focused on continuing negotiations with both sides of this war to end the conflict, and the president is very confident we can get it done this week.
What makes him confident?
What do you think it'll take him?
Okay, welcome back. So again, you know, the difference between this press secretary and the other one, I mean, she has the answers. She knows what's going on, and she's willing to take the questions. And there are certain things, you know, when you're in the middle of making deals, you can't just say everything what's going on between Russia and Ukraine. Although we do need to realize, I know that there are a lot of people who wave the Ukrainian flag, you know, but you know, technically, America has no vested interest in who wins or loses this war. That's NATO. You know, it's the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. It's Europe. They're the ones that are in direct threat to Russia. Okay, and so all the money that NATO countries poured into the Ukraine, they were loans. They're going to get their money back. America spent more than all of them combined and sent money, and when they get nothing back, that's why Trump is saying, we gave you all that money, we want those minerals. That's your payment back. And so President Zelensky is so used to, working with babies who just, little wimps who just do whatever he says. Trump's not, he's not going to be taken advantage of, and he's not going to let America be taken advantage of. So he's playing hardball. But again, the fake media and Chuck Schumer and all these lying deep state people are going to tell you that he's favoring Russia and he's hurting Ukraine. No, you got to wait till the deal's over. The Ukraine, they were coerced. I mean, literally, Biden started the war himself. He was such a moron. I don't want to get into it. But there was no war there in while Trump was president. As soon as he left and Biden took over, the world went wild because America lost its strength by power. But it is kind of crazy. So look at. We've got a country, and it's changing. We got the changing of the guards, and the people that are screaming the most about what's happening with Doge and USAID and everything else, and the bills that Trump wants to pass. They're screaming because that's their money. They've been stealing, and they don't want to get caught. And it was funny. One of the things I said was that, who was it? Someone, one of those guys from, I don't know if it was USAID or Doge, or someone resigned. Well, a lot of people resign when they're given, when the fraud and the crimes are so prevalent. They say, either you resign right now or we're going to arrest you and take you to jail for these crimes. And so they go, you know what, I think I'm going to resign. Okay? And so they go quietly into the night. And and a lot of that stuff is going to be happening. The fake media and Chuck Schumer and the deep state, owned and operated people. Eventually it's going to be funny when the Epstein list comes out. But yeah, they're owned and operated by the deep state. And who is the deep state, you want to know? Well, the deep state are the other people that are crying like babies. Like when Joe Biden took over, there was no problem when we laid off tens of thousands of the, the Keystone Pipeline people and workers and everything that went along with that. When corporate downsizing happens all the time, when corporations downsize for product things, or they downsize and outsource over to Taiwan, Japan, or somewhere else, we lose American jobs by the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. No one seems to. I lost my job several times in the last century in my career, because of corporate downsizing and things like that. You know what? There is life after being laid off. In fact, most people, I didn't mind getting laid off. I get to take several months off. Lay me off. I'll take a June layoff, and I can, take that whole summer off. You gotta, there is life after, and yeah, it can be traumatic, but it's all in your state of mind. Again, that's what we all have to figure out. What's more important in life. But again, these career bureaucrats are the ones that we're talking about. They've been in that you talk about Elon Musk, he's not elected. Do you know how many millions of people are working for the federal government that are working? They're not even going into the office. They're just staying home, and they're working from afar, collecting all this money and probably working 3 other jobs. They got money coming out of their ears. And now they're going to get laid off because they're not doing anything. They're just pushing paper from place to place and making it look like they're doing something. They're just collecting money. They're what they call ghost jobs. They're ghost jobs. So they're flushing out the ghost jobs and all these things, and we got to get rid of them. But they're running this. That's why when the first time Trump was president, he had such a hard time getting anything done because these lifetime bureaucrats, they would not follow the directives from the executive, the president. He's the president. He's the CEO of the country. He gives an order. It needs to be followed. My boss's boss in Boston, they tell us to do something. We're working it. We're doing it. But not these guys, because they're professional bureaucrats and they're part of the deep state and they know they're protected. People come and go, but we're just pushing our agenda. Okay? So we got to get rid of those. Are the people we got to get rid of. They're unelected and they're causing havoc in the country. And, you know, Kash Patel, if you don't know the history about Kash Patel, you should find out, because if it wasn't for him, we never would have found out all these lying. And again, the FBI, the rank and file, for the most part, are okay. You know, people don't go into law enforcement and police because they, you know, but when you get up into the what do you call it, management and into those executive offices, and then all of a sudden politics come into play. And when you mix politics with anything, it goes wrong, very, very wrong. So James Comey and all those, Christopher Wray and all those guys, they all lied, cheated, and stole, and they were corrupt, and they fought. They did what the deep state said and fought against Trump and fought against all the Republicans, and everything Democrats do is good and everything Republicans do is bad, and it's all right there. Even the J6, everything, they lied, they obfuscated all the evidence. In the J6 committee, they all should be arrested because they all destroyed evidence. Once the investigation was done and they did their report, they started burning and destroying everything, because all the evidence proves that it was the FBI informants and the you know, what do you call them, instigators, confidential informants. They were working for the FBI and they were told to do that and get these people, agitators, whatever, there's another word, but they created the crisis. And that was the other thing. Never let a good crisis go to waste. You ever hear that? That's all they do. They're just blaming Trump for anything that happens. Airplane crashes, a snowstorm on your birthday, it's Trump's fault. It's Trump's fault. It's okay. Yeah, cue up that last video. And again, what I'm talking about, this last video, I've played it several times before, and I just want you to, this is what the mainstream fake news and Chuck Schumer and all these people, this is how they lie. They take words and they mean one thing to you, but what they're actually doing underneath is what's happening with USAID. It's a front. It's all a front. Oh, DEI is the greatest thing in the world. But no, it's not. It just creates havoc and chaos. And let it rip. We'll just talk about it when it's over.
What's in a word? Why does it matter whether we call someone who breaks the law to enter the country an illegal alien or an undocumented immigrant? What's the difference between a Christmas tree and a holiday tree? It's just semantics, right? Yes and no. It is just semantics, but semantics means the meaning of words. Words exist so that we might discriminate one thing from another. Without words, we have chaos. And it starts with the first words. A baby says mama to distinguish mommy from daddy. Words shape how we think. They color how we view the world. No one understands this better than the left. They are the masters of words because they know that words matter. The left has a special gift for euphemisms, soft words selected to sugarcoat harsh realities so as to make those harsh realities easier for us to swallow. But these soft words are insidious. Their sole purpose is to deceive. Race discrimination in hiring and college admissions is refashioned as the much nicer sounding affirmative action. Who would ever oppose an affirmative action? Global warming, which can be measured and challenged, has morphed into climate change, which means essentially nothing because the climate is always changing. When Barack Obama became president, George Bush's war in Afghanistan suddenly transformed into the far less ominous and threatening Overseas Contingency Operation. That's one way to try to end a war, just rename it. The examples are endless. There's a new euphemism every week. In the make-believe world of leftist language, young criminals have become justice-involved youth. Mandates and taxes are individual shared responsibility payments. Government spending becomes an investment. Wanting to keep more of your hard-earned money becomes greed. Taking more of someone else's money is them paying their fair share. Opposing a Democrat in the White House is obstruction. Opposing a Republican in the White House, resistance. In the name of diversity, the left enforces intellectual conformity. It censors opposing views in the name of tolerance, and it labels all non-left views hate speech. Consider the ongoing battle over pronouns, whether to call a man who thinks he's a woman he or she. Very few people in the country suffer from gender confusion, and we should have compassion for those who do. But the left has invested countless funds, time, and energy to make everyone refer to some men as she and some women as he. Why? Is it because the left is so compassionate? Or is it more likely because so much of the left's cultural agenda is about blurring, even denying, the natural distinctions between men and women? Sometimes it's just an adjective that can change or even negate the entire meaning of the word it describes. Take social justice. Justice means getting what you deserve without favor. Social justice means getting what you don't deserve because you are favored. Here's one we hear a lot these days. My truth. Truth is reality regardless of any individual's feelings or perceptions. My truth is how I perceive things regardless of how they really are. And how about same-sex marriage? Let's not get into the politics. Let's just look at the language. Throughout history, in every culture, marriage has been the union of husbands, men, and wives, women. Same-sex marriage is the union of men with men or women with women, but it is most certainly not the union of husbands and wives. Once the phrase same-sex was placed before the word marriage, that is, once the definition of marriage changed, the debate changed. It became about marriage equality. It was suddenly an act of bigotry to limit marriage to husbands and wives. All this manipulation of language has paid off for the left, because whoever controls the words controls the culture. Don't believe me? Just try using plain language instead of the left's politically correct jargon. But be careful. Use the wrong words, and you might lose your job, your home, and your reputation. The culture war is largely a war of words. Right now, the left is winning. You can see the consequences everywhere. In politics, in education, in media. It's time to fight back. We should not cede another syllable. What's in a word? Everything. I'm Michael Knowles, host of The Michael Knowles Show for Prager University.
All right, welcome back. Again, you gotta focus on what's really happening here. Again, it's very simple. They take soft, sugar-coated words to cover the harsh realities of what's really happening underneath. And we all need to just pay a little bit more attention to what's happening. I mean, I think that the election of Donald Trump and the overwhelming, not only did he win the, the Electoral College vote, he also won the popular vote by 2 or 3 million, whatever it was, 4 million, I don't know. But either way, it doesn't matter. The thing was, it was an overwhelming win. So we need to, the thing is, people have had it. Last century, we used to call it PC, politically correct, right? And we used to joke and laugh about it, and no one ever paid attention. We just, the heck with that crap. We know what's right and what's wrong. We know what's real and fake. But wokeness became politically correctness on steroids. And now people could get fired now because now they have all these, they created all these DEI and all these programs that could make, they could fire if you use the wrong pronoun, if you did this. People are not buying that anymore. You know what? Unless you have a relationship with someone, no one knows what, we have the English grammar. And so those are the pronouns, he, she, we, them, they're standard. If you have a special, then you're going to have a name tag because no one's going to remember. There's only 7 billion people on the planet, and you know what? You're one of them, and you're not really that, we can just stay at the surface. If you want to get detailed, then yeah, sure. But no, you can't make laws to protect all this stupidity, and that's what this election was about. And we still, again, the fake news and Chuck Schumer and those people, the deep state, they will not let go. They're still fighting. In fact, up in Maine now, they keep telling us to follow the science. Well, we've been following the science in the Olympics for centuries. Men and women are different. It's binary. You're born, you're either man or woman. There's, like he said, there's a few, the percentage of actual physical people that have this gender, whatever that disease is called, it's less than 1%. So those are the ones we have to feel sorry for them and do what we can, but we're not going to change all our athletic abilities no. There's tests. It's scientifically proven. If you're a man, this is what your body is, and if you're a woman, this is what your body is, and that's it. That's your sex. Gender, you can call yourself anything you want, but but no matter what you think you are and what you want to call yourself, if your body says you're a man, you can only play man sports. If you're a woman, you can play woman sports. That's it. That's all we're saying. That's all that should happen. But people are going to fight that. And women, they created Title IX to protect women's sports so that the women sports would be, legitimized. And now they're making a joke of it by letting men play in women's sports. And it's just crazy. Even... There was a cute little interview that I thought was really funny with, I don't know if you know who Jordan Peterson is. He's some genius up in Canada, and Bill Maher. So Bill Maher, they were having a little discussion, and Jordan Peterson, they're talking about wokeness and all this stupidity, and Jordan Peterson says, you do know, Mr. Maher, that in the 1990s, you had a show called Politically Incorrect where you mocked all this politically incorrect stuff, and you do know that wokeness is just, politically correct on steroids. Bill Maher, yeah, I did. So even he knows he's wrong. This stuff ain't real, but they do it because it's adult peer pressure. If you don't do this, then we're not going to be your friend. And you got Hollywood and all these people. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. I thought these books were out there. I didn't even look to see if they had one. But, I got these books, the Federalist Papers and the liberal media industrial complex. It's just, what's going on in this world is crazy. We need to step back and stop. So, again, I can't urge you enough to stop listening to the mainstream media and just what the heck is going on and all this stuff. Because quite frankly, we need more truth and faith and less fear and lies, because that's what we're up against. And the mainstream media, the whole culture is railing with this. So the people that are screaming the loudest are the ones that are the ones that are the most guilty of the stupidity. Okay, so we need to. In Massachusetts, God have mercy on us. We have a supermajority of Democrats in Beacon Hill, and they're passing laws that are just pathetic. And we need to end this stupidity. I mean, they pass laws that don't even know what they're doing. I just went to a meeting in Davis last night about the planning board, and now we have this ADU, additional dwelling units, that the state passed, they can put on it. It's going to screw up all the metrics of affordable housing and everything else, and we don't know what to do. Yeah, well, you know what? We need to say that any ADU that's going to be just listed as a affordable housing unit, because they're going to throw off the numbers, and the legislators out of control. They pass these laws with so many unintended consequences. It's pathetic. All right, I'm going to have to leave it there, folks. Got to leave it there. I only got a couple of minutes left. We're going to what am I going to do? We're going to go back to the good news and end on the good news. Let's do our serenity prayer, because Lord, as George Costanza would say, serenity now, serenity now. Lord, give us some serenity. Okay, here's the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, taking, as Jesus did, this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. Amen. So that's the serenity prayer, and that's, you know, it's biblically based, and it's all about the higher power of Jesus. He's here to save lives and make people whole. You just gotta start looking for him, and don't pay attention to all this distraction. The evil distraction of busy. What do you know? Busy. There was a busy under Satan's yoke. Being under Satan's yoke. Okay, that's a little acronym for busy. But yeah, cute little things. But we got to focus on the truth and reality. And the media's not. They're not there. They're still in denial. They're in denial. All right, that's it. This show is over. Love you guys, and we'll see you next month.